welcome back, everyone.
Hopefully that water didn't sound too sexy on there.
You probably didn't miss us.
No, it's been... So we haven't recorded in, 4 or 5 months? So a lot has happened.
And this is actually our 6th episode. I
thought it was 5th.
5th or 6th. I have some ones to edit and upload. So by the time this gets out, you'll have heard our other ones, probably.
Not. Who cares? Anyway, a lot has happened. You had your Honda, and then you didn't, and you had a bunch of other cool shit. Now you have your Honda again. And then I got rid of the Cutlass, and I bought a really old car that's restored, and...
Mostly restored.
I bought a really boring car that's newer and lame. You did a water pump on the Suzuki. So anyway, let's start with what you've done. You had the Honda, and then what did you get rid of it for?
Sold the Honda, and I got a truck. I got an 87 Ford F-250.
Oh, yeah.
2-wheel drive. It was had the 460 with the in-tank fuel pumps, which is a really weird combination. I guess it's sort of the unicorn of the bunch. Usually with a carburetor...
A unicorn would be under the presumption that it's something that's worth having.
It was not. So basically why this is so rare is that most 87 Ford vehicles were fuel injected.
Right.
However, if you opted to get the 460...
They got just the 460?
The 460 was carbureted, and it had in-tank fuel pumps. 86 had a mechanical fuel pump, in the typical spot. Right. But when I got the truck, I drove all the way out, about 30 miles out of town to get it, and drove back fine, but it died at the gas station. Gas gauge didn't work, and I figured I had ran out of gas. Well, long story short, after several failed jumps and cranking it till the battery died pretty much, and spraying shitloads of starting fluid in the carb, and it just wasn't having it. So after reading several wiring diagrams, I started to kind of narrow it down to the switch that selects the fuel tank. As a front and rear tanks, because it would die randomly. It didn't make any sense how it would die. It would just shut off. It didn't sputter or anything. It was just off. And so I think if it's a failing fuel pump or something, you'd think it would be weak and it would kind of sputter. It didn't. It was fine, and it would just shut off. So anyways, I finally got under there, and I saw the worst, most hacked to death, like eBay special fuel tank selector valve that was only wired to one of the tanks, and the gauge was not even wired to it, and so I just bypassed the wires to the valve. It would already been bypassed otherwise with the fuel lines because only one tank was supposed to work. So while I was down there, I found out that the positive, or one of the wires to the fuel pump as well as to the fuel pump's ground were stripped of their coating and were touching each other. And that would explain, as soon as they touched, the pump would short out and shut off. And I taped those up, and it never died again.
Nice.
However...
So what did you... sorry, go on.
I was going to say, at that point, I drove it for about a week, and I discovered how shitty on gas it was, and I didn't think it was going to be quite that bad.
Right, and so what was next after the Ford? Because I forget, was it the Hyundai?
Yes, I sold the Ford. Several failed attempts as to selling... Oh, no, we got to talk about the Mercury.
Mercury?
The Grand Marquis.
Right, so I don't remember where the Grand Marquis was. I don't remember where it was in that...
Before I sold the Ford, I saw a 19... Was it 80?
85, I thought.
No, it was an 88. 87.
86. 87.
87.
Something like that.
Anyways.
Before they got the weird facelift.
Box Grand Marquis. This thing was... perfect. Almost.
It really was. That's the nicest thing you've owned.
It was in great shape. It was all original. It had, it
white on white with blue interior, white vinyl top. That
white walls.
Great. Turns out, magic erasers work awesome on vinyl tops.
Oh yeah, it was great. It ran good. It had a very noisy fuel pump, and it had some,
air ride.
It had some dents. The air ride worked.
The auto load level.
It only had 100,000 miles, I think, even. Or 90-something thousand?
I thought it was low 90.
Yeah, very, low mileage for the Panther platform.
Oh, of course.
and shifted good. Everything was pretty good. It did have the Ford AOD transmission deal
with the kickdown or
something. With the kickdown, there's a bushing, and they tend to, the engine gets hot, so they tend to deteriorate. And if they get sloppy, it actually screws up the transmission shifting points and can destroy the transmission very quickly.
Like a throttle valve cable.
Yeah, just like TV cable on like Suburbans and stuff like that. The old
GM stuff. Yeah.
So that kind of stressed me out. And the gentleman I bought it from, he wanted $2,500 for it, which if I had the money, I would have paid that. But he was going to do payments, and financially, I just wasn't really up to doing the payments. So I had it for a couple days, and then I decided that
that was an awesome car.
I decided that I wasn't really in the financial position to be making payments on, especially on an older vehicle like that that's going to have problems no matter what. Right. But I figured if I was going to be paying $200 a month, I'd rather go buy just a cheap little newer mid 2000s car that I knew was going to be okay.
Right. So then it was the Hyundai.
Yeah. Then we got to the Hyundai. I bought a 2002 Hyundai Elantra. I'm like, oh yeah, Hyundai. I had an Elantra before. This should be a great experience. It was not a great experience. This car was only $600, so I really couldn't complain.
Honestly, those are the best cars because
all the struts were blown.
Treat them like shit and not really care.
All the struts were blown. The clutch pedal was like it was nothing. I mean, you just step on it and went to the floor. I did a lot of work to it that I shouldn't have done. It had an intake problem where when you would go to shift, it would basically the RPMs would jump up when you pushed in the clutch more than they normally would, just go up a little bit. They would go up like 1,000 RPM and stay there. And so it made it very hard to drive. So
every gear, it's like you're power shifting.
Yeah. And that clutch was not going to last doing that. And so, I did some work. I did a little bit of work to it, removed the ugly ghetto tint that was on it. And I ended up selling it after I was concerned about an input shaft bearing, which apparently was not an issue. The new owner, even though I mentioned all this to him, is still driving it around just fine. So
yeah,
it went to somebody who needed it, and they were aware of the issues. So I didn't really feel bad selling it. I went and bought a Pontiac. This Pontiac was actually pretty cool. I only paid $800 for it. This was a 2005 Pontiac Grand Am GT1.
GT1.
So this was the Ram Air car. This was the Ram Air. The problem is this car had been in a fire. There was a wildfire last year out in our area, and this car was not directly in the fire, but it was in a structure that the fire had gotten around, and so it got pretty hot. It had melted the bumpers off and some of the trim and just general some of the plastic, and and so somebody rescued it. They had a parts car, and they just threw a silver bumper and fenders and hood. And
honestly,
headlights.
I say you should have kept that thing. That car was actually really nice.
But it lost
for a shitty Pontiac.
It lost the Ram Air hood, and it lost the cool body kit that they had, and stuff like that. So I got it, and I got it for really cheap. Only 130,000 miles on it. AC worked, heater worked, sunroof, windows, everything worked in it. But I ended up running into the old owner of my Honda, and she had a question, and it sounds silly, but the Honda has meant a lot to me. My girlfriend and I had done a lot of work on it, and we spent our first date replacing the radiator in that car. So it means a lot to both of us, and I know how to work on that car. I know those cars in and out. The Pontiac is a different story. You got to worry about the intake manifold gaskets. You got to worry about who knows how hot some of that stuff got and how long it was going to last, like the ball joints and things like that. The interior wiring was having issues. I couldn't wire a stereo into it because it had a weird factory amplifier in the trunk, and it was just like the
Mercury.
I didn't even tell you about that, but it had a 300 watt amp that's built into the trunk. Apparently, the sound system in those was pretty substantial.
On the
Pontiac. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they have 8 speakers. I believe.
I thought that would have been reserved for the Bose system and like the GXPs, like the Grand Prix.
It was the equivalent of the Bose system.
Huh.
It was the highest sound system you get in that car. That was the highest trim level of that car. The only thing it did not have was leather.
Ah.
It had every option except for leather.
Nice.
So, anyways, she saw the Pontiac and she was like, "Oh, okay." And I told her, I was like, I will be honestly willing to trade you back. I know the Pontiac's worth like 3 times as much as my car was. So my car's not worth anything, really. And she said, okay. And so I let her test drive it for a couple days because she lives a little bit out of town and she has to drive on the freeway and stuff. So she drove it. She liked it. It needs an alignment really, really, really badly. And a couple days later, got my title. We swapped titles, and now I have the Honda back. And it's not doing so great in the snow right now. But it's we're calling it Project Patience. My girlfriend and I. So I saw that. It's we're gonna slowly just kind of pick away at restoring it. I know that sounds silly to restore a '95 Honda Civic.
I saw a 2001 Civic Si with 17,000 miles sell for $28,000, like 6 months ago. So
the thing is that my Honda is not the cool Honda. Out of that generation, it's probably the coolest
option. At least it's a 2-door with a sunroof with a stick.
The thing is, it's not an Si.
No, but
and they didn't make a.
Is the SI really special at all?
Yeah, dual overhead cam. They have a different engine.
Yeah, you can swap another. The Hondas are like Legos, from what I understand. You just throw whatever you want. You could put a freaking Odyssey V6 in it if you wanted.
J32.
Oh, really? You can? Yeah. Oh, that's hypothetical, but all right.
Basically, the Honda. What we're going to do is we're kind of work on the interior of the car is great. We're going to swap the seats out with something else. But then the exterior is where...
It's just rust, repair, and paint, really, isn't it?
The exterior, it got in a front-end accident, and so the hood doesn't really line up and stuff like that. So we're going to get a different core support, different hood, make sure all that lines up. Trunk lid needs to be replaced. Other than that, it's just some paint work and some minor rust repairs. And then as far as... what I'm focusing on right now is going to be suspension, because the suspension is almost unsafe, and so we're gonna work on doing the control arms, and I'm probably going to upgrade them when I do them to better bushings and getting different control arms and stuff like that.
Right, and all that stuff's fairly cheap and
stiffer
easy
suspension
to get for those
cars. Because I want it to be sort of a fun to drive car with sort of like a track.
Reliable daily that you can do whatever you want with.
But I kind of want it like a track setup. I want it not slammed to the ground. I want it pretty low, though, with a good stance, with good tires on it, with tight steering, and little to no sway. I want it to,
but not shitty to drive on the street.
And that's what I'm kind of looking at.
That's what I
upgraded springs, shocks.
Do what you can where you can.
Yeah, and then the engine has 200,000 miles on it, and it smokes at high RPMs, but they'll do that forever. So I think it's got another at least 30,000 left in it before it explodes. And so I'm going to take that time to just save up, and I'm probably going to swap it with
H22A.
No H series in there. They're too heavy. Engines are too heavy. We're going to probably go with a B20V out of the CRV, or it could just do GSR B16, something like that. So that should be.
You're speaking a whole other language to me. I know BDHK.
Right now, it's good for anybody who knows Hondas. Right now, it's a single overhand cam D16Z6. So it's the fastest, with the most horsepower and torque out of all of the engines that were put in that generation of Honda Civic, because most of them had about 90 horsepower. And
what do you got? 110,
130.
Ooh, so damn.
Yeah, so. It's a fun car to drive. It's not very heavy, so it's not bad, but it really needs work.
Slow cars fast is the best, especially light cars with low power.
But with putting a B20V or something like that in there, it's going to bump it up to 200 horsepower, and then any other mods. I hurt
myself with that, actually.
Any other mods are going to be, it's just going to be icing on the cake. Anyways, it's not going to be a race car. I just want it to be fun to drive, comfortable inside. I want the inside to be nice. And then
trim everything in alligator leather.
I'm not doing all that. Because the inside's perfect in that car. It just needs the seats replaced.
Exactly, alligator leather.
And then now I want like S2000 seats, I think.
There's a guy I really want it really, really badly. I guess I could afford it, but there's a 82 Cadillac Eldorado for sale, the one that I really like, and the downsized car. It's piss yellow. It's a Baritz, so it has the stainless steel top, and it's a factory sunroof car. but the interior is yellow leather, and I just can't live without it. I need to have it. I think it was like $2,800 or something. I think it was like $3,000. It was not expensive, but that's what you need is throw some seats out of some just crazy colored American luxury car seats from the 70s into that thing. That would be awesome.
One seat would be the width of that car. No,
that's why you get a nice one with like buckets, like the seats out of the late model front wheel drive. The Olds touring cars, the 98 touring sedan and touring.
But you got to remember how small my car is.
Yeah, these are small cars too. They're the downsized.
98 was bigger than the
midsize. Oh yeah, it's a bigger car, but as far as the actual seats go, I mean they're not. They're comparable.
I guess it's all door panel, huh?
Yeah, really. I mean, your car's got a thicker body than those older cars do.
Real quick, let me talk about the water pump issue with the Suzuki, and then we can.
You were talking of.
We can go on to Andy's side of things here with his endeavors.
Yeah, my
serious
mistakes. Yeah, that's the word.
Anyways, I've just recently went through a job change, and right before that happened, I had pulled the Suzuki. My girlfriend drives a 2008 Suzuki SX4.
Name so great they stole it from AMC.
Which is, and Andy will always say that, which is it's a front-wheel drive based hatchback. They also made a sedan. That
can it really be called a hatchback?
It's a compact.
It's kind of its own thing. It's kind of eggy.
It's kind of ugly, but it kind of grows on you.
Like a Kazashi that got rear-ended really hard.
It's got most people know what they are if you just. Because they're around everywhere now that we have one. We see them all over the place.
Yeah.
They sold a lot.
Never looked at them.
They run the J20A engine. I think that they've had in every Suzuki. I think even the Geo Tracker had that engine.
Nice.
So the engine is not a new engine. I'm sure it's got new stuff on it, but it's not a new. It's been around for a long time.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like the 3.8, there was no reason to change it.
But it does have a center diff that locks.
Right.
And it is. It's technically all-wheel drive. But it's selectable, so you can have it in auto, you can have it in all-wheel drive lock, or four-wheel drive lock, or you can have it in two-wheel drive only. So we usually leave it in two-wheel drive, but now that it's winter, we have it in auto. So it's got, if it senses slipping, it'll kick power to the rear wheels.
Right.
Anyways, it's pretty slow. It's not a fast car.
It's got 60s, what?
It doesn't
13 seconds.
Not even.
Not
even. No. And the transmission is probably the worst part of it. It's got this shitty slush box, 4-speed automatic.
It's really a 4-speed.
Yeah.
What year is that car?
It's a 2008.
Oh.
And the transmission. Maybe it's a 5. I don't know. The transmission just sucks. It's hard to get up a decent sized hill. You got to manually downshift it. So it's pretty limited on the power. However, it's got a lot of ground clearance.
Right.
And it's very comfortable, actually.
Too. Wide track, short wheelbase.
Yeah. You can turn on a dime. And if you look it up, there's a big following. They go everywhere.
Yeah.
There are people that take these things everywhere. They make lift kits for them. They make skid plates for them. They make all sorts of cool stuff for them. So
yeah. I think it's actually kind of a cool...
And she got quite a good deal on it. It's got 150,000 miles, but...
that is a lot of miles in 10 years.
Yeah.
I guess that's 15 a year. I suppose it's not too bad.
And so...
Around here, anyway.
Basically what happened, I kind of got on a tangent there. I pulled into my work, and I saw that there was some green fluid leaking from the front end. And I looked under there, and I couldn't really see it. It looked like coolant, but... It looked like it was coming from the AC compressor, which didn't make any sense. So I thought it was the compressor oil.
I can only imagine the aneurysm you had when you saw a puddle under your car.
Yes.
I know how you get.
And so I pulled it into the shop and got it on jack stands. And after some further inspection, I found out that the water pump was located right above the AC compressor. And it looks like it just blew the seal to the water pump, and it was just leaking coolant out of it. So she drove it for about a week. We just kept putting coolant in it, and it didn't overheat or anything. So... We got a new water pump in, and it was a very difficult job. With how that car is, it's front wheel drive, so it's it's not longitude.
Transverse.
Transverse.
The wrong way.
And so the water pump is right snug up against the frame rail, right, or the body subframe right there. And then right below it you have the AC compressor, and so it's very tight. You have to take the whole water pump and thermostat housing block off of the engine. So what we did is we had to take the exhaust manifold off, then we had to take the AC compressor off, and we had to discharge the AC to get the compressor off and out of the way. But it took us about 4 hours. It was very infuriating. It was mostly me doing it. My girlfriend helped a little bit when she could, and she was trying to do her best. Computer fell asleep. That's fine. Just the screen turned off. But we got it done. When I pulled the old water pump out, I quickly discovered that it was put together with more RTV than water pump.
Nice.
And that means really that it must have went out before, and somebody did a bad job of probably really a shop.
Really just an O-ring instead of a gasket.
And so I put a new actual gasket on it, put a new seal on the thermostat housing, and it hasn't leaked since. We drove to California and back. Everything's good. I feel actually a lot more confident doing larger tasks on engines now, because I've never rebuilt an engine or anything like that. I've just done,
You just nurse it, keep it.
I'm learning as I go. I've never been to school for this, or I didn't really have anybody teach me either. I just kind of had to.
When you find out there's nothing that can be done, you can make it comfortable.
Yeah, so it's got
terminal, but we can make it comfortable.
Well, it's got a new water pump in it. It should last decent well. That's one of the main problems on that car is the water pump, and so it's got a new one in there with a lifetime warranty. And,
nice.
It should be fine. They don't really have a lot of other issues. Head gasket, but it's got 150,000 miles, and we don't hot rod it.
Right.
So it should be fine as long as we maintain.
As slow as that car is, it better be built to be driven like an ass sometimes.
And we check
because of how much throttle you'd have to give it to get it to go places.
We always keep up on fluids, and it needs the brakes. The rotors are really bad. And
I used to religiously maintain the Cutlass, and I think you've passed me in maintenance of vehicles and how much you actually do, and because. I traded my Cutlass, unfortunately. I know I said I would never get rid of it, and I'm already feeling it. I'm starting to feel pretty bad about it. But there will be more, and my car was kind of a shitbox, and it needed a lot of work. And no, I traded it for a 96 Chevy Caprice Classic. My car has 0 options. I have the window sticker for it. Power windows, power locks, power driver and passenger seat, power mirrors. It's the shitty little 4.3 L99 V8. Yes, 4.3 V8. It's a 265. There were only 2 engine options in that car, which is the 4.3 and the LT1 5.7 350. No 6-cylinder. They only had 8s. It's got a 4L60E and a rear end that's... Who really gives a shit what kind of gears it has back there? It's probably like a 229 or 273, something like that. Drives good on the highway. It has the 17-inch Impala SS wheels. It's purple, so I called it Grimace. But it's supremely boring. Like, it is amazingly boring. I changed the oil the other day, and you know how when you do something to your car and it goes well, even an oil change, you usually feel good about what you did afterwards. I didn't feel anything. I really don't care about that car. It just doesn't matter to me. It really doesn't exist. I don't even... Sometimes I forget I own it. I've never been able to understand how people today, 90% of people that own cars today, see them as appliances. But now I totally get it. That car is nothing more than a friggin' toaster for me. It just does a thing for me. And who cares?
Is it toaster bread, though?
It gets me to work. It probably could. Yeah. But I had it for 1 week, and the radiator cracked, which is one reason not to buy new cars with those shitty radiators with plastic tanks. Cracked the radiator, had to get it towed. Never had to do that before, but I was 30 miles from home. I barely had any cell reception, and I had like 10% battery on my phone. So that's all I could do is I just had to have it towed. Got it home, 120 something, $150 later. Put a new radiator in it. Haven't really done much else with it. Just changed the oil. I swapped the SS wheels out for a set of stock Roadmaster wheels that are a 235/75/15 white wall. Because the SS wheels are terrible in the rain and snow and everything, So it just gets me to work. That's my shitty daily. But I had it for about a month and a half before I just wanted to die when it came to cars. Like there's the Eagle, my Eagle wagon, the brakes went out. My Volkswagen Scirocco runs, but it doesn't idle, and it's just an all-around piece of crap. And I just needed a fun car. I could not live without a fun car. I needed something. I just don't have the capacity to drive boring cars. Yeah, or fix the ones that I have. And so I bought a Neptune Green 61 Chevy Corvair Monza 900 Coupe, which is it's got a 2.4 liter flat six motor. It's a later model engine. It's a 63. It's rated for 102 horsepower, Saginaw 4-speed stick. Everything's in the back. Actually, the motor is in the way back. The transmission sits towards the front, and the differential's in between the two of them.
Easily, excuse me, the coolest car you have owned.
Yeah, I'm not in love with it, actually.
It's also the only car he's not let me drive.
Yeah, it's almost ready to let other people drive it. It just had a lot of issues when I got it. So it was restored about 10 years ago, not very well.
Right.
And I mean, it's a nice car, and it's a nice car to drive, and it's worth
it turns a lot of heads.
Yeah, and it's worth a lot more than I paid for it. But it has some bugs. You know that's what happens, unfortunately, is people restore a car and then they don't do anything to it. They take it out for car shows and they don't actually drive it. They don't notice things that are wrong with it, or they just own it just to show it off, or they neglect it, really. You know,
right.
This motor's brand new, and I changed, and you know, it had fresh oil in it 8 years ago. Why should I change it? It's only had 50 miles put on it. Well, you know, shit like that goes stagnant after a while, and some things just have to be done. Master cylinder seems to leak a little bit, I think, or maybe it's just a little juicy under there, but juicy. I don't want to replace it because it's a gigantic pain in the ass on that car.
Juicy.
Because the master cylinder is inside the car, and the brake pedal is attached to it, and you have to pull the entire assembly, and I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that, but the brakes work great. Four-wheel drums are actually incredible. Great driving feel. It was originally black, so it has a black dashboard, black carpet, white seats, white vinyl.
Yeah, white seats.
Which I learned very quickly that I cannot drive that car to work, because when I get off work, I'm dirty and the car is very dirty.
You also can't wear blue jeans in and out of those. It'll stain the seats blue.
I've never had an issue with that.
Maybe it's not vinyl. Maybe it's white leather.
It's probably leather. I've never had an issue.
Maybe it depends on how you, what kind of jeans you wear. Like if they're dyed or how they're dyed or
something.
I've seen issues with people having white seats and they can't wear white. They can't wear like blue. They have to wear like white pants.
That's why you just buy a AMC Gremlin with the Levi's package.
There you go.
With the denim seats.
You never have a problem.
Yeah. But yeah, so the Corvair is a great car. It's tons of fun. But I'm honest, I love it, but I'm not in love with it. I don't really care. You know, if somebody made me an offer on that car, a decent offer, I would totally take it. I'm not attached to it at all. I mean, that's not to say I'm neglecting it. I'm taking care of it. And I mean, I actually have it put away. I have it sitting at a heated shop for winter. I paid my friend money to store it at this shop for 2 months. I've never done that before. I've never stored a car. So I gotta rebuild the carburetors while it's down there, and the left rear brake was making some funny noises, so I'm probably gonna take that apart and see what's going on. But it's a great car. It's a ton of fun. I just, I'm just not attached to it. I haven't really been attached to many cars. I'm selling my AMC Eagle. The brakes went out. I replaced every single part of the brakes. I replaced the master cylinder twice in 2 weeks, and they worked great for about a week, and then they just stopped, went all the way to the floor again. So that car has $900 bucks.
Does it have wheel cylinders?
Yeah, it's got drums.
Did you replace those?
No, they're fine.
They're fine?
Yeah, they're not leaking. If they're not leaking, there's no reason to replace them.
Is it possible they have malfunction, though?
Not really.
Because isn't a malfunction in one of them enough to cause the whole system to take a crap?
Yeah, but the brake fluid has to go somewhere.
Right.
And it's not leaking anywhere. None of it. It's...
Well, but they have pistons in them, right?
Yeah.
Are they stuck?
No, they work fine.
Have you gone through all of the possible...
Oh, yes. I've done... The only thing...
We know Andy has a little bit of a patience
The only thing I haven't replaced is the brake lines. That is the only thing I haven't... The brake lines and the... No, that's the thing, is they work fine.
Or have you... Have you bled the living crap out of them?
Oh, yes, I have. Bled it multiple times. Probably gone through a gallon of brake fluid. And it's... nothing.
Unless there's a place where air is getting into the system.
There has to be, or something.
Because that's why it's working for a while, and then
either way, the car's $900. Selling it for $900. That's as much as I spend in parts in the last 6 months. So
is that the only problem with it? Oh, the wheel bearings.
Wheel bearings are still shit. I had two full sets of wheel bearings for it.
A little bit scary to listen to, but.
Yeah, it still got me to work every day.
It did.
And
it's just...
what else is wrong with it? Oh, the four-wheel drive doesn't work. That was the other
And that's
thing.
Like the main selling point of that monstrosity.
Yep, that's the only reason to own one of those cars, is because it's four-wheel drive. So everything else is kind of shitty.
Didn't the four-wheel drive implode on you?
U-joint strap on the front drive shaft
flew off,
exploded, and it
launched the drive shaft everywhere.
I so wish it was the front U-joint at the axle, because then nothing would have happened.
But the strap came off,
the front drive shaft, I was doing 55 down the highway, and the front drive shaft beat up everything. It ruined the four-wheel drive. It broke the speedometer cable, broke the vacuum lines, just beat everything to death. And so, yeah, it's pretty much screwed. I mean, it's not worth anything. It's got nice paint. It's got great interior.
Yeah,
it runs fantastic. It always has. It always starts.
Drivetrain issues or drivability issues.
It still drives. It's just the brakes. That's the only issue. The transmission's fine. Axles are fine. CV axles are brand new. Ball joints are new.
It'd be a good car for somebody to put a lot of time and effort into. It wouldn't take much to get it.
No, to get it back, it's just finding rare parts. All those 4x4 parts are unobtainium. You can't find them. It's Eagle and Wagoneer, and that's it.
Don't you think they would remanufacture parts like that?
Oh, hell no. No.
There isn't enough of those around to warrant it?
Those are pretty much the only parts that aren't reman or reproduced. So anyway, I'm selling it because I can't fix it. I'm a terrible wrench. I'm not mechanically inclined. I can't work on cars. I just simply don't have the skill, and I'm tired of it. You gotta
give yourself credit, because you do get stuff done though.
Yeah,
he's done a lot of stuff on all his cars,
mostly out of anger.
But he gets pretty.
I gotta show the car that. Yeah, I mean business basically. That's how I work on cars. Is if something breaks, I have to get really mad at it. I have to stick it to it by fixing it. Because all my cars just want to die, and I gotta, be mean to it and make it continue to live. But yeah, so I'm selling that because I just can't fix it. I'm tired of looking at it. I just can't do anything about the car. And even if I did fix the brakes, it's still not four-wheel drive, and there's no reason to have it. I've found a lot of other ones that are nice for a lot of money. They are very expensive cars in good shape, and comparatively anyway, anything else from the 80s is dog shit, cheap as hell, as long as it's not a truck. But as far as actual 80s cars go, they're very expensive, but I'll find another one. They made plenty of them.
He's over here keeping the hope alive.
Oh yeah, I'll totally have another one. There's one for sale right now for $3,800. It's brown. It's a limited. It's got leather, super nice wire wheel covers,
acres of
white
brown,
wheels, wood, power windows, power locks. It's the automatic. Really, really nice car. So I mean, I can find another one. I know that I can. There's plenty of them out there still. That
Did you just say wood? Because it's not wood. It's better than wood.
Yeah. Plastic wood is pretty cool, though, honestly, if it's executed properly.
Plastic.
But yeah, anyway, so I'm getting rid of that.
More plastic.
I'm getting rid of the Volkswagen Scirocco as well. I mean, I've been trying to get rid of that car since I bought it.
That's actually a car that I've tried to help him on.
That car is a gigantic pain in the ass.
Yeah.
I fixed the fuel line. I did fix that. So it's no longer leaking fuel, but it is having trouble getting that fuel to the engine while it is running. It refuses to idle, but it will run. Needs a battery. The battery, then it's shit. It's been jumped too many times and worn down, and I'll throw a charger on it every now and then just to get it started. I mean, I believe it still has a full freaking tank.
Gas.
I drove the car for 2.5 weeks before it just finally stopped.
Also a head turner. It's body straight.
Very fun car. Tons of fun.
Good looking
Rides
car.
great on the highway, even though you're pulling 4,100 RPMs in fifth gear at 70 miles an hour. It's very loud, even stock. And yeah, it's a ton of fun.
Edition, right?
It is.
Yep.
There's only 3 colors available that I know of, or 4. I think it was black, white, yellow, and red.
And this one's red.
Mars red, so it's kind of orangish red. Depends on. Honestly, it's kind of funny when you wax it and you make it look really nice. The paint on that car is that's the nicest paint I've ever owned. Nicer.
Yeah, it was really chalky when he got it, but he did some work.
Yeah, German cars do that for some reason. My Beetle was the same way. My '74, the yellow car, it had the original paint and it was all
most of it
patinaed and everything. Yeah, it had 3/4. Just that one fender and the engine lid was primer.
Yeah, they were replaced, I think, right?
I believe so. I think they were. Yeah, the engine lid was brown on the inside.
Yeah, so it must have been off another car.
And so the.
Remember when we found all this? Remember when we were looking for the signatures and stuff of the people that? Don't they sign parts in those? What did we find? We found something.
Vaguely familiar.
We found like a tag on the inside of one of the fenders. One of the Beetles.
Yeah.
It's like the signature of the person who put it together.
Something like that, or inspector or something.
Yeah,
I don't remember. That sounds familiar though. But yeah, no, my Beetle was the same way. It would get really chalky, and then whenever you waxed it and polished it up and put a lot of work into it, it would shine up really well. And then as soon as it rained, it would just turn to shit again, and it would look like freaking Pepto. Like it was just terrible, just crappy, white, chalky, no shine. Just bad. But. Other than that, the Scirocco's a nice car. It's a ton of fun. I wish I could keep it, or rather, I wish I could fix it. But I know if I fix it, it's going to break again because it's a Volkswagen, and that's all they seem to do very well is break. Especially those 80s ones with the Bosch mechanical injection, which works awesome when it works. And it sounds great. It's continuous flow, so the thing backfires even with the stock exhaust on it. Shit mileage, but... decent power, awesome throttle response, just an awesome car to have, but terrible to work on, impossible to fix, and impossible to keep running. They will always break. Jason Camisa, the guy that I follow on Instagram and YouTube and blah 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 and everything, he has a Cabriolet and a Scirocco, and I swear he's rebuilt the motor in that Cabriolet like 5 times.
Really?
In the last 2.5 years.
Reliability was not a selling point.
Always working on that car. Of course, it's a 2-liter. It's good for 170 horsepower, and it's mildly built. But from what I understand, those cars are just not reliable, and they're not going to be. Which is amazing that I've seen so many run for so long. Maybe I just buy bad ones. I've never.
Andy has some of the worst cars.
Never owned a good car. Never, ever. Every single car I've owned has been a complete pile of shit. Okay, I guess the Monte was pretty good. The suspension was terrible, but that's not the car. That's not the car's fault.
That was the previous owner's fault.
Chevy Astro van, most reliable object in my life. That thing's been more reliable than some watches I have. Never let us down. Always started. Always ran. Never had any problems. It got a fuel pump and it got spark plugs once. That's all it ever had.
Once.
187,000 miles.
Wow, aren't you supposed to do spark plugs more than that?
I think they got done at 100. That's believed when they're supposed to be done.
100,000 miles.
Yeah, that's how the Caprice is. Which I
just always change spark plugs when I buy a new car. I just change the spark plugs because I don't know. Don't care. They're so cheap that it doesn't matter.
I rolled the Caprice over 100,000 miles at 100,007 and some change, and that's where it needs oil change, trans fluid and filter. Spark plugs, plug wires, bunch of other things that I really don't want to do. Plugs are all right on those cars. You just got to do it from the fender.
Trans fluid.
There's a seal on the filter on those. There's 2 seals.
On transmission?
Yeah.
Filter?
So they're really stupid. I don't feel like doing that.
It must have been like the Suburban then.
Probably, yeah. My buddy's fighting a 4L60E in his Jimmy.
4L60E is just the electronically controlled version of the
4L60, and the 4L60 is
just
a 700R4.
and a $700 is just a TH350, right?
They're similar, I think. I think some of the guts are similar.
Well, my Suburban that I had that issue with the stupid seal. It got stuck in the...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the trans filter has a little spout on the end of it that gets stuck in it, and that's what my buddy's fighting on his Jimmy right now.
That's what problem I had with
the Suburban. The filter kit that I bought came with a transpan filter, or a transpan gasket and the filter, but it didn't come with a new seal on the little spout. So I don't know if my car has one or if it doesn't, but I'm not going to do it until I find out. I don't want to tear into it and then fight that damn seal for 3 days.
Mine, I had to use a screwdriver, and I kind of just had to pick it out. I was just, you get angry and you're just trying to get it done.
And you start getting pissed off. And
I got it done.
You're at the point where you're like, fuck it, let's just ruin it.
The worst problem was the cross member on the vehicle that I had. You couldn't get the pan off without taking the cross member off. I got the pan off anyways, but it was not fun. So I dumped transmission fluid all over myself and everything else. So
nice. So I forgot to mention, I went to Boise, Idaho recently. Actually, not recently, middle of August. It's December 1st right now. Man, time flies when all you do is work.
It's December 2nd, sir.
Damn, my watch is wrong. Anyway, I know I went up to Boise and I saw some very, very nice cars up there. I saw 3 Cadillac Elantes running and driving on the road, which is insane. There's a right-hand drive yellow SI, like a 99 or a 2000. It had Type R stickers all over it, too.
If it was right-hand drive, then it was a Type R.
Which is an odd mix. I didn't know that. I thought it was either an SI or a Type R.
Oh.
I thought you didn't have both. But it had SI badges on it as well, which is kind of dumb and redundant. 2 Marauders running that appeared to be real. The crazy-ass rear bumper with the stamp in it and the dual exhaust.
For reference, he's talking about the Panther body Marauder.
The late model Mercury Marauder, not the 60s
03 to 05.
Really? That's all they did? Huh. Yes, I never really paid attention to those cars. Didn't see any SSs, surprisingly. A lot of people thought my car was an SS because it's black or it's purple and it's got dark tint. It's got like 5% on that thing, and
had the SS
wheels and tires.
Taillights
are dark. Yeah. Taillights are tinted. Pretty shittily.
It's a sharp looking car from
300 feet away with the lights off. It's a really nice looking car. But
when
honestly,
I see it driving, it's a good looking car. But when you get close, the paint
it's terrible. Yeah. You know what? It's actually getting so cold here that my paint is coming off in chunks. I went out to start my car when it first got cold because it gets
negative
10 under 10 under
15
at night, and I went out to start my car in the morning, and I noticed this little chip in my hood was a little bit bigger than usual, and I was like, what's going on there? And I just rubbed my hand over it, and it just comes off, just flakes and chunks, and then on my way to work, there were chunks flying off while I'm driving. I could watch them come off the hood. Now the spot's like a foot, just in the middle of the hood, of just bare metal, like they didn't even prime it when they painted this piece of shit. The car was originally dark green-gray metallic, which is a beautiful color, and they sprayed it purple, and it's fucking terrible.
That was the color of that car I saw in Dixon.
Which car?
I told you I saw an SS in Dixon.
Oh, yeah.
It was that color.
That's a beautiful color, especially on the SS with that little spoiler and the nice wheels. Awesome color. I really wish it was still that color, but some asshole painted it purple. I don't know what happened there. I mean, the purple was very cool. I just wish it was done properly. It's
Barney car.
all orange peel and flaking and chipping and tiger stripes, and it's just a god awful paint job. Overspray, just terrible. But I'm trying to liquidate all my other cars. I might even sell the Corvair to do it, but I've wanted one since I was a kid. I've always wanted to do it. I discovered some folks that did it, and I'm going to build a Jurassic Park Jeep. I've wanted it since I was a kid. My entire conscious life, that movie has existed, and that movie was a weekly occurrence in our house growing up. And I could probably rewrite that script offhand and probably 80% of it just from memory. And the Jeeps are cheap. I've always wanted one. The Jurassic Park Motor Pool, they seem like a great bunch of guys. They all help each other. They all have some of them are screen accurate, some of them are not. There's one guy that's building, or one or two guys that are building the Mercedes from the second movie. One guy has the RV from the second movie. Somebody has a pretty much screen accurate Explorer with the CRT TVs that play the tour program.
That's
awesome.
Has
the plexiglass roof, the original style Go Rhino bull bar for the Explorer that they stopped making like 20 years ago. They have hookups on parts, on part numbers, and screen accurate parts versus modern reproductions that work, or how to modify modern parts, how to modify the old parts. The Ramsey winch that goes on the front of it. Somebody has the they make like PDF printouts and stuff for like the stickers that you can the old school Ramsey, because you can still buy a Ramsey winch that's pretty much similar, pretty much the same thing, but somebody sells everything that you need to make it look like an old one. Most of the internal parts are usable, but finding the Jeep is the problem. That's really the hardest part. I mean, I'm at the point where I might just start buying all the parts, buy the paint, buy the everything for it, and just wait to find a Jeep, and then just do it all in like 2 weeks, in and out, because that's really what I want. Is I want it fast, I want it right. So I figure I might as well just start collecting. The paint is kind of hard to find. According to PPG, they only had it for 1 year, but I could swear I've seen some other model years of Jeeps that had that color. It's 1992 Chrysler low gloss sand beige metallic single stage urethane.
Ooh.
And the red stripes are approximately Chrysler Radiant Fire red. Apparently they're finding different colors that are closer to screen accurate, but then it's like also old film stock, and it's hard to find the right one. There's a Ford red, and there's the Chrysler Radiant Fire that is as close as people have gotten. The Ford red's a little brighter, a little bit easier to see, but basically all you need is a Wrangler Sahara if you want to be screen accurate. Car in the movies were 92s. Pretty simple 108-inch CB whip antenna, Ramsey 6,000-pound winch, I think, which is pretty weak. Dark green interior with the map pockets, sound bar with no dome light. I've gotten into this. The current reproduction for the top is either khaki or spice, the correct color. Jabsco boat lights if you're doing a 12. JP12, all the cars are numbered. Modified Jabsco boat lights. The rear are Dixie Peck or Power fog lights with a shield modification with the amber lenses. The correct tires are BF Goodrich radial all-terrains, which they haven't made since like 2000.
Right.
They were replaced with the KOs, and then the KOs were replaced with the KO2s. So they're impossible to find, and they're completely unsafe. If you can find a set of them, they're probably from the 80s, 90s. You just can't find them, and you should not drive on them. But some people have them. Some people do it. There's one guy that has a Jurassic Park 10, the JP10 Jeep, which is Muldoon's Jeep, so it doesn't have a roll cage. It's the one that has the toolboxes on the back, the NAC toolboxes.
Oh.
And his is pretty much screen accurate. It's got dents and rust, and the windshield is broken off and cut down.
Really?
He bought a wrecked Sahara just so he could make this awesome,
that is awesome,
pretty perfect one. The spare tires all kinked up in. Really, really cool. But he actually just posted, I think wasn't too long ago, on his Instagram, that he had bought correct radial all-terrains. And they're like all beat up, like how the white on white letters and white walls, if they sit for too long, and it rains or something, they get the lines that run down. The white like starts to drip off of the tire and run down the black. It looks great. It's really, really, really cool. But anyway, so yeah, I'm doing a Jurassic Park Jeep. You want the Explorer, if I'm not mistaken. See, I don't like. Well, it's not that I don't like Explorers, but the Jurassic Park Explorer is kind of crazy and not really my style, but I want the Jeep. I've always wanted the Jeep. The Mercedes from the second movie are really, really cool too, but from what I understand, the Jeeps are the cheapest movie car you can get, and I would just love to have one. I see some that are already done for sale. I see some that are done incorrectly for sale for too much money by a dealership that thinks they have one that's worth a ton of money when it's really just a $2,000 paint job on a $2,000 Jeep. But I see them for sale quite a bit. I've been watching the market on YJ Wranglers for about 2.5 years. I've been wanting to do this for a long, long, long time, and I'm just going to do it. I've figured out, I've decided, unless something comes along for super cheap that I really, really can't live without, my next vehicle purchase is going to be a YJ Wrangler.
You better follow through with it.
I gotta have it. I really do. And if I have to sell the Corvair to do it, I'm going to do it. Because like I said, the Corvair is a ton of fun. Great cars. Ralph Nader can suck it. They're totally safe. They're safer than a lot of its contemporaries, other cars from the 60s. They're great to drive. Very, very cool. You just got to know how to drive them. Great in the snow. I actually drove it when it first snowed the other day. I actually did drive it just because I wanted to know what it was like. I just had to have that experience. So yeah, that was a fun car. But I'm not super attached to it. If I have to sell the Corvair to do the Jurassic Park Jeep, I'm going to do it. I have no qualms about that. I have no issue with that. I just got to do what I feel is right. Got to do what's right. Something I've always wanted.
Right.
Every time I have a tendency to just buy crap that I don't need or want. Case in point, the Monte Carlo, the Scirocco, the Gold Bug.
You're like me.
The Caprice kind
impulse
of.
buys.
Yeah, I wanted something different. I wanted a Chrysler or a Ford or something different other than GM, and I ended up buying my Monte Carlo. And then next time I set out, I was like, I'm going to buy a Bug. And then I way overspent. I paid $1,800 for this piece of shit 74 Beetle that was a ton of fun, and I totally understand why people like those cars. I would love to have another one, but mine was a complete turd, and it gave out after about 5 months of driving. Just would not run. It ran on 2 cylinders for a while and then just stopped. And I probably could have fixed it for about $50, but I didn't know that at the time, and I just sent it. And then before that, I bought my Gold Bug, my 74 Super Beetle Sun Bug, and that was another one where I didn't need it. I didn't really want it that bad. I just saw it and it was cheap, and I decided, yep, I'm going to buy it. Also turned out to be a piece of crap. The guy that I sold it to, so I paid $1,750 for that car. I sold it for $1,850.
Really?
Yeah, and I saw it for sale about 2.5 months ago for $5,000. The guy put new seats in it and new taillight lenses because it didn't have any, and that's it. $5,000, and I'm like, dude, it's not that rare. I didn't comment anything. I really probably should have, but yeah, I sold it. I made $100 on that car and probably put about $20 into it. I put an air filter on it. That was it. I stole the trim rings off of it for the Eagle because they're both 15s. But yeah, other than that, I've done that a lot where I set out for something and then settled or saw something that was really pretty and I just had to have it and just went for it. And I've ended up getting burned on 90% of the cars I've owned. So, got to find a good Jeep. Got to do it. I just have to do it. Everybody I know is on board with it. Everybody thinks it's pretty cool. And even my parents, they're not Jeep people, but they understand. They love that movie. They're the ones that ingrained it in us, that movie exists and how great it is and everything. Speaking of great movies, actually, I know this isn't exactly car related, although I can make it car related. Bohemian Rhapsody, the new biopic about Queen, or specifically about Freddie Mercury. Totally historically inaccurate. There's a lot of issues there, but the movie is great. It's very entertaining. I really, really enjoyed it. I don't care that it's not completely accurate, but you need to see it whenever it comes out on DVD or whatever. Awesome movie. Anyway, there's a Rolls in it at the very beginning.
Really?
Yeah, there's a nice 70s Rolls. Looks like a Silver Shadow or something.
That's what I want.
I love those cars. Those 70s Rolls Royce, like the Bentley T1. Beautiful, beautiful cars. I really, really enjoy those. They're just so great. Those Bentleys and Rolls cars from the 30s and 40s were pretty nice, and the 50s cars are good. But when they went to that shape that they stuck with, in the late 60s, early 70s, those are really, truly beautiful cars. And they stayed that way until like 1998. Like, they didn't change them at all. They're the same car. They just changed a little different. You know, the 68 rolls that John Lennon had is the same as the turbo Bentley white interior that Sir Mix-a-Lot raps about in the early 90s. You know, they didn't really change the car much. It just got more plastic and more body color. So, great cars. I thought they're beautiful. But anyway, you should see that movie. Everybody should see that movie. It's really good, whether you're a Queen fan or not.
Right.
Very, very good. I saw it twice in the theater.
Ooh.
I've never done that before.
So back, you had to go. So good, you had to go back for more.
Yeah, I did because I had to. I just had to. For some reason, it was great. I've never been entertained by a movie like that ever before. Awesome movie.
All right. Well, we are going to. I'm gonna go ahead and.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and.
Think we should wrap it up.
Wrap this one up.
We got a lot of material. We're almost at exactly an hour. Instagram, you have one now, right?
Yeah, I do have an Instagram now. That is
Oxyent.
Oxy.nt. I'll have to link it.
Yeah, throw it in the description.
He's got his
Andy.Strom97, if I'm not mistaken. I don't even look at it very often.
Yeah, we post
I post most of my stuff on there.
He posts car stuff. I'm not on there as much.
I do car stuff and watches if anybody's interested in that kind of crap.
So we're trying our best here. I had some computer issues.
We haven't recorded for a while, and we've just schedules don't line up, and shit happens. You know.
So the only day we have off together is Sunday. So that's when we're recording right now. So we're gonna try to do this a little bit more often. We have enough content up here.
This will last us at least 4 weeks because we have 4 or 5 unuploaded episodes right now. So
you guys will be hearing these, and then we'll keep updating them. We'll get some more going after the holiday season as well. So anyway, this has been this is episode 5 or 6, but
something like that.
Hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving and a merry
something.
Merry Christmas once that comes around.
Whatever you're into.
And we'll catch you in the next one.
Have fun.